Among a lineup of students stands a smug-looking, black-haired boy named Kaito Miyamai. He's getting blasted by this four-eyed lady, Takizawa-sensei, for having straight Fs in every possible subject. Practical skills, potion making, everything else. Hell, probably recess too. Given that, why the hell is he still at this school? His classmates look at him with amusement, already anticipating what his answer is going to be.
Why? Isn't it obvious?
Kaito asks his teacher, before shamelessly blurting out, "How else am I going to get popular with the girls?" Now this scrubby behavior is unacceptable at the Seiryu Academy of Magic, a prestigious and historic institution, renowned for forming young magicians into upright contributors to society. It's home to the most talented magic students in the world. However, even amongst the best, there is a pecking order, and these near flunkies aren't getting any slack. Takizawa continues to reprimand them and call them useless hatchling-tier scrubs. Kaito gets extra flack for still keeping his focus on the ladies. She hates how complacent he is, especially when he's a bottom feeder at literally everything he does. Not only grades, but he can't even wield a single type of magic. The frustrated boy can only scoff in annoyance, muttering that she should just shut up already. Once again, she pushes the class to spend the class discovering which type of magic best suits them. Most of the other boys genuinely give it a shot. Well, except this one guy who's shooting his shot. Kobe. All muscles in his body all crunched up, Kaito pours a tremendous amount of effort into manifesting something. Anything, for that matter. His classmates mock his poor attempt. Takizawa watches her groaning pupil. She silently acknowledges that he puts in the most effort amongst their entire class, but he hasn't even come close to manifesting anything remotely close to magic. It's strange since he wouldn't be in the academy in the first place if he was completely incapable. Even when the class bell rings, the boy still keeps at it. Gossip about him spreads like wildfire. The guys question why he's there, while the girls have already heard about his earnest wish to build a harem. They wouldn't bother with a creep like him. Still, there's no freaking way he's gonna let some lil comments thwart his efforts, and he continues casting magic with all his might. Shockingly enough, he emits a powerful gust of wind that gives him a perfect view of all these ladies' unmentionables. They all scream in horror as he gains front-row access to this spectacle of a lifetime. The guys sarcastically celebrate his victory, while the ladies run away and spread the word. As he desperately tries to prove his innocence, a voice calls his name from behind. It's a pretty long-haired lady named Tengen Yui. Kaito refers to her as Yui Big Sis, and is surprised by her presence. With tears in her eyes, she shakes his arms and half celebrates his power's arrival, but also calls him out for his first use of it. The surrounding guys can't believe that someone like Yui would even bother talking to Kaito. In shame, our boy runs away. She somehow catches up to a breathless Kaito and asks why he fled. Well, an overachieving eagle tier like her shouldn't be speaking to a bottom-tier loser like him. He dashes back onto memory lane as he recalls his past with Yui. She's the daughter of the illustrious Tengen family, a bloodline heralded for its prowess in magical combat. Despite being a year older than him, they've trained together since they were children. This girl is extremely talented in both academics and sports, not to mention magic. She's Eagle tier, the third highest of the Academy's 7 tiers. Yui kindly consoles him, saying that there's so much more to a person than their magical tier, especially in his case, because he has a lot of good traits. Even with the reassurance, he's still feeling a bit down. That's why this kind-hearted lady proposes a nice, warm meal. With a smile, she opens up an assortment of lunchboxes that she woke up early to prepare. Kaito is speechless at the sight. He always tells her that she makes too much food, but she never seems to listen. She jokingly says she wanted to try 50 different types of fried chicken. All of a sudden, she shifts the topic to what he said earlier. Are you serious about learning magic to be popular with the girls? Kaito cringes at his own words. But if it isn't true, why did he say it? It appears that in the past, Kaito told Yui that he swears to make Phoenix the highest rank one day. That's the reason why he was so willing to go with her family's hellish training regimen. Can't he just tell them the real reason behind it? Now, deep in thought, Kaito comments that it was naive to think Phoenix was an achievable goal. Even now, he'd be happy to learn a little magic, but it's looking a little impossible. He isn't hopeless, though. It would still be cool for any teenage boy to impress some girls with his wicked magic skills. Yui refuses to believe that anyone would undergo hell for such a shallow reason. Before she can pry more into his life, he walks away. Contrary to what he's been spouting, his real goal is to become a Phoenix tier wielder. That's been it from the start. And the root of it isn't some made-up story about a harem, it's actually about a promise he made with a childhood friend named Minase Florence Mai. Back in their childhood, he swore that he'd become a Phoenix tier wielder to protect her. A pinky promise sealed the deal, but he hasn't even managed to use a sliver of magic to this day. Coincidentally, she goes to his school too. She's grown into a full-fledged beauty with people worshipping the ground upon which she walks. Her assistant clears the way so she can make it to her next shoot. As a professional, she's earned the name Ice Queen for being effortlessly cool. Ice Queen again? We need to come up with newer nicknames, people. And if that wasn't enough, she's the youngest Phoenix tier wielder in history. With her irresistible beauty and skill, everyone wants a piece of her. Kaito can only look from afar as his childhood friend walks off into the distance. Someone like him, the lowest of the low, protecting her, their promise means nothing now. That's why he would rather come up with a lousy excuse than tell everyone the real reason. What would she even think if she sees what he's become? He dejectedly stares at the floor, believing that she's forgotten all about him. Surprisingly, he looks up to find some eye contact between him and this beauty. Their moment is interrupted when her assistant snaps her out of it. When she notices that Kaito looks away, a worried expression overcomes her. Kaito is also simultaneously kicking himself for being unable to look at her. He's derailed from his train of thought when Yui comments on how amazing Mai is. After all, they say that no one in her bloodline can use magic, yet she's become one of the strongest magicians in their academy. It must have taken a ton of blood, sweat, and tears to get there. If she could do it, then he'll be okay too. Kaito gives it some thought. He may be behind her as of now, but it's no reason to give up. He'll show everyone he can be a top-tier wielder. His surge of positivity is negatively impacted by some trash-talking behind the scenes. Looks like some people aren't so happy with Mai's success. A pig-tailed girl named Aoi Kiara receives praise from her underlings. She's definitely more popular than this Mai girl. Her lackey's praise gets to her head almost immediately. When she questions why a lot of her fans are moving to the Mai side of the camp, her lackeys divert her attention to throw more insults. Her meaty assets far outweigh Mai's. Like, that's what you call innate talents, so certainly that's a sure winner. As expected, Kiara's living for these words of affirmation. It goes slightly overboard when the girls mention her questionable photos, though. The trash talk continues. They dismiss Mai's skill, saying that titles are just titles at the end of the day. They don't represent one's real skill. Being the Chad that he is, Kaito calls them out. They don't even know what she's like, so how dare they talk smack behind her back? The girls turn around in confusion. He continues his ramble on how uncool it is to spread rumors like that. Yui attempts to defuse the situation, and the lackeys immediately recognize her and begin to flee. So, situation fixed? Nope. Kaito raises his voice, demanding that they challenge her directly to a duel. Kiara hesitates due to their difference in tiers. Meanwhile, the lackeys insult Kaito for hiding behind his senpai. Kiara arrogantly claims that she'll be soon leaving Mai in the dust, and add even more comments on how shallow she is. All this lights a fuse in Kaito. He knows just how hard she's worked to get where she is. With that, he points at the ladies and challenges them to a duel. Yui tries to stop him. If he loses, he'll probably be expelled, and he knows that. But if he wins, he takes their ranks. Risky, but a fair trade indeed. Kaito professes his values. With matters as important as this, he doesn't care if the consequences are dire. He'll deal with them later. He finally introduces himself as the lowest tier in the academy, and Kiara confidently takes his challenge before walking away with a smiling face. Yui tries to get him to revoke his challenge, but he doesn't budge. There's nothing worse than watching others backstab the people he cares about. With this, he apologizes and runs away full of energy. The day of reckoning at the arena finally arrives. Some people begin recognizing Kaito as the aspiring ladies' man, half mocking him and half admiring his clear determination. He tries his best to concentrate, but the side comments are a bit excessive. Yui watches on, hoping for the best. Kiara, on the other hand, jokes that she'll forgive him if he apologizes and joins her church. This angers him even more. The announcer tells the crowd what's at stake, a rank exchange or expulsion. Whoa. All of a sudden, Mai watches from the sidelines and finds Kaito at the arena's center. She worriedly spectates the battle as it begins. The moment the fight commences, Kiara's clearly ready to put on a show. She flies in midair and unleashes her Serpent of Flame, a flashy move meant to impress the spectators to build her fan base. The intermediate-level magical skill gains some oohs and ahs for its power and cuteness. Her church throws some praise her way, and of course talks trash about Mai at the same time. Despite being an airhead, she's actually pretty competitive. Kaito barely dodges her flurry of attacks, and he's desperately trying to get into her blind spot. From the ground, though, he spots something else and lets her know. Everyone can see her delicates from the stands. A flustered Kiara rains hellfire on him for looking, while members of the church are clearly displeased with this sacrilege. Mai can't believe how riled up the crowd's gotten over this. Even the dignified Yui tries to cheer Kaito on, even if she isn't too happy about his earlier comment. Our boy's on the complete defensive. The principal asks Takizawa if that's the boy who's yet to find his ability, to which she confirms. His teacher adds that he should have the chops for it, but they've found absolutely nothing. It's the first time they've had a student like this. Kiara smugly lets Kaito know that perhaps it's time to end this. Even if he's dodged all her attacks so far, this one is going to be her strongest, final attack. Mustering up her magical energy, she manifests the Great Flame Serpent, a ginormous magical entity roaring towards him. He can't even process what's coming for him. Kiara boasts that it's flashy as it's her final attack, but the offer of joining her church still stands. She can even let him off the hook now. The crowd begins doubting his abilities. Even Yui, at this point, knows that he can't take that attack head-on. It's time to surrender. Our boy hopelessly stares at the ground until a thundering roar erupts from the stands. It's Mai. She commands everyone to be quiet. This heckling is disrespectful to the duel. As honorable magic wielders, it's their duty to act dignified even during the battle. Everyone begins to realize what they've been doing, and Mai gets pulled away by her assistant, but not before Kaito looks her in the eye, and those pupils speak a million words. An irritated Kiara hates the fact that the spotlight was taken away from her, but acknowledges her wrongdoing. It's time to end it. The flame serpent heads for Kaito. If this hits, it's all over. His time in the academy is done. Just as the boy is charged with a renewed sense of determination, the serpent falls before his gaze. Smoke envelops the arena, not allowing anyone to see what has transpired. A whirlpool of magic swirls around our boy. Everyone's in utter disbelief, and Yui tearfully celebrates his awakening. Even our boy himself can't believe it. The teachers and staff curiously look on. They don't know what trick he used either. Kaito tries processing what just happened, but an impatient Kiara suddenly bursts in. Pleasure? Lol, what? Neither Yui nor Kaito himself knows what's going on. The usually defiant Kiara has become submissive and begs our boy to stare at her more. She even reveals her upper delicates and asks him to call her a good girl. The referee charges in to ask what's happening. Before Kaito can finish his explanation, she lovingly runs into his arms. The girls fight over his attention. People look to the principal for answers. She thinks a bit, then arrives at the conclusion. He's got the charm ability. Look away from his eyes. Sadly, she fails to follow her own advice. Even she's part of the harem now, and if the principal's unable to defend herself with her endless supply of magic, then just about everyone else is defenseless and done for. The crowd can't believe it. The harem builder actually got powers to control other people's hearts, but more surprised than them all is Kaito himself, who probably wished for something else. Despite his obvious displeasure, the crowd boos him for developing such an indecent skill. All his attempts at explaining himself are mistaken for manipulative tactics, and with that, he gets branded as the worst of all magic wielders. To add to his troubles, the girls are still swooning over him, while Yui's spirit has left her soul. A few days pass, and quite an abundance of students have fallen prey to his charm skill. As the principal and Kaito further discussions in her office, she tries to come to terms with the vast power of his ability. Even she's actively avoiding his gaze. After all, they become charmed and become willing to reveal just about anything. Anyway, his ability was discussed with the Council of the Seven Sages, the school's 7 strongest magic individuals. Moreover, they've already decided on a course of action. The decision? To confiscate his charm ability. Kaito can't believe it. He waited so long to get this. The principal explains that mind control is a serious taboo and usually merits even worse punishments. The only reason why he's gotten away scot-free is because he didn't know about his power before the event at the arena. But yeah, the confiscation's a done deal. Kaito realizes that he could never be able to use magic ever again. The principal binds him and wraps his eyes so she can get a little bit closer. However, our boy remembers all the struggles he went through to attain this power, as well as his promise to Mai. When the principal still refuses to listen to him, he powers out of his blindfolds. And yeah, Miss Principal's right there to look into his eyes. How unfortunate. She immediately falls for his spell and apologizes for doing something so cruel to such an adorable student of hers. She even smacks herself on the head as an act of repentance. Her only request? For him to be her boyfriend. She's been single for 102 years now. She's 127, and damn, the cow cobwebs down there are probably an extinct species of flora at this point. Thankfully, Kaito is able to escape before she lands a solid smooch. He runs out and unluckily runs into Kiara of all people. She somehow takes his panicking as the sign of an inflated ego and swears to get back at him. Our boy closes his eyes and looks away to prevent himself from accidentally casting his spell. She continues pestering him despite his warnings. So yeah, she gets what she deserves, and Kaito is clearly displeased with how things are going. The halls quickly turn into a stampede when all of Kaito's loyal fans follow him around like a herd. It's a pretty diverse group, filled with cute girls of all shapes and sizes, as well as muscular men. There's enough of the K-Man for everybody, y'all. Everyone's tripping over the chance to get some alone time with our boy. When things are just about looking hopeless, someone casts a spell that sends everyone to sleep. Behind Kaito is a familiar voice that ties him up and detains him. It's Mai. She reminds him to keep his head down and sends him through a warp hole. When he gets to the other end, he's reminded not to raise his head. In front of him, the Council of the Seven Sages. With a group this powerful in front of him, he's fully expecting them to take his powers away. Goodbye, charm. Poor Kaito can only think to himself, are you okay with this, Mai? The rest of the council calls for the process to be done quickly. But then, a lady decides to talk to him. She introduces herself as Moika, one of the sages, with the ability of captivate. Her affable demeanor is reassuring. She admits that her ability is a bit similar to his, but he went overboard by casting it on the entire school. Where's his integrity? Without hesitation, Kaito denies voluntarily using this skill on his schoolmates. He profusely apologizes for what happened, as he still has no control over his powers. The confused girl looks to Hijiri, inquiring why the intel she received was different. Kaito was supposed to be a villain who was controlling people's minds to have them do what he wanted. Hijiri mentions that regardless of one's intent, the boy still caused a great disturbance within the academy in a taboo way. Magic is supposed to help people of this world, and he doesn't see how the charm skill can ever be used to achieve that end. Moreover, it's too risky a skill. And now, without further ado, he puts his hand over the helpless Kaito. He can only brace for impact. A voice springs up from the side. It's Mai asking, "What do you want to become?" After all, it isn't rare for one to cause a disturbance upon discovering their skill. What's more important is how he decides to use it in the future. So, once again, what does he want to become? He remembers his passionate wish to be her protector, but he can't say that here. Words find difficulty exiting his mouth. Mai decides to provide an example. She says that she wants to be like the great sage Healand. This catches everyone by surprise, most particularly Kaito himself. He recalls being the biggest fan of Hyland back in the day and energetically talking about him to a disinterested Mai. If one's going to pick an idol, it might as well be the world's strongest magic wielder in all of history. That legend has ended famines, stopped wars, and done all the impossible. As part of his promise, Kaito swore that he was going to become like Hyland, despite a young Mai trying to manage his expectations. His optimism was not going to be hindered that day. Presently, Kaito looks at Mai and realizes that she's remembered their oath, but he almost accidentally looks her in the eye until the delinquent-looking sage Zenji forces his head down again. As this man rubs his face into the ground, Kaito gets just enough room to profess a bold declaration. "I'm gonna become one of the 7 sages." And if that wasn't enough, he goes on, "I'm gonna put my ability to good use and become the strongest wielder to ever walk the earth." Without a doubt, this elicits mixed reactions from the current 7 sages. One of y'all's jobs is in danger. Mai hides a smile, overjoyed that her childhood friend still holds the same determination. Hijiri once again tells him to be realistic. He can't even control his power. If he had a mentor that could help him, it would be a different story. Mai begins volunteering herself, but Moeka goes first and uses her magic to calm Zenji down. The man can't help but fall prey to her whims. The lady then volunteers to be Kaito's mentor, much to everyone's surprise. She asks for Mai's support in convincing the rest, before explaining that they have the same time of ability after all. She'll be able to guide him in using it. Hijiri states that while charm and captivate are still somehow different, perhaps someone like Moeka with a proven, trusted record could do it. The latter promises that if Kaito's still having control issues a year from now, then they're free to do whatever they want with him. The principal tells her that it would be a humongous issue if what happened inside the academy were to happen outside, but it's all about learning to control it, right? And with that, Moeka reaffirms her position on his side. Hijiri finally agrees. Now, a formal statement to Kaito. He'll get a year with Moeka, so he better make it count. A newly lit fire burns brightly under our boy. He's ready to become one of the greatest ever. In an instant, Moeka teleports the two of them back to the academy with Warp Hole. Apparently, all the sages can use this skill. Kaito can't believe that someone of her caliber is actually going to be his mentor. He asks why she decided to do all this for him. In response, she launches a tee-hee and admits she just went with the flow. He looked pitiful, after all. As they climb the clock tower, she admits that she also faced much of the same issue when her power was just beginning to manifest. A lot of accusations were thrown her way, but thankfully her predecessor from the Seven Sages was able to mentor her into using Captivate for the betterment of society. Not everyone can use magic, so they should thank their lucky stars. They view the city from the clock tower's perches. Magic has definitely improved humans' quality of life. However, some have also used their abilities to commit acts of evil. She firms her resolve. It's the duty of magic wielders to stop evil, and if he even thinks about doing wrong, then she's taking responsibility and stopping him. And with that, she asks, "Do you have what it takes to be a magic wielder?" Kaito once again reaffirms his position. He will never do anything dishonorable with his powers. As one aiming to become a sage, he fully commits himself to wielding his ability righteously. This show of sincerity makes Mocha smile, although she still asks if he believes that's enough to pass. However, his character is admirable. Now she asks him to show what he can do. She points to 3 girls on the ground. The requirement? Charm them. Kaito can't believe what he just heard. If he does that, the school might become an absolute mess again. Even if it's just those 3 that she mentioned, he still has no control over his powers. Either way, she's looking forward to seeing how fun his powers can be. This is him making up for it, since she missed out on spectating his powers running wild recently. Her additional request, after charming them, bring them to her and introduce them. She loves adorable, sweet girls like these ones. So that was her goal all along. Kaito still refuses since enough people hate him already, but Moeka doesn't. No, he can't. What if the entire school gets turned into a harem again? But he can no longer refuse. He might lose Mocha's mentorship if he does. And with that, she launches him towards his unwilling targets, directly into between the legs of one of them, in fact. Sadly, he's already gained a reputation as that nefarious charm guy. Despite his calls for forgiveness, she hits him with that look of disgust and runs away. Kaito knows he has to try harder, so he screams out, "For my sake, please, let me do it just once!" Bro's always failing the speech check? Damn. Anyway, his lack of social skills causes a mighty misunderstanding. Mocha cries her eyes out in laughter, and the poor girl refuses his misunderstood advances to the highest degree. Still not knowing why this girl's so angry, Kaito even offers her some money. Yeah, nope, that ain't working. She blasts him off like Team Rocket, launching him into his other 2 targets. Unfortunately, they too recognize him as the charm guy. His deadly reputation is just cemented when he asks to let me do both of you together, leading to further misunderstandings. It's a desperate sight, and we're sure Mocha's just living for all this. The mentor now contemplates if he needs help with his magic or with his interaction skills with women. Surprisingly enough, one girl does decide to approach him. It's Kiara. She's ready to settle things once and for all. Kaito recognizes her and runs the other way. He ain't got time for her BS. But she's cute too, so Moeka adds her to the list of targets. Kaito can't believe what is happening. Anyway, Kiara admits his ability's pretty impressive. To combat it, she's worn a blindfold this time around. She then launches her magic, without looking, obviously due to her disabled sense of sight, and propels a powerful whirlwind towards the girls from earlier. She doesn't believe Kaito when he warns her. And with that, the blades of wind shred away at the girls' garments, leaving them with nothing more than fragments. They immediately see Kaito as the culprit and form a mental link between him and degeneracy. Even if he's vehemently denying any ties to this incident, he's now branded as an enemy of all women. Poor guy. In desperation, his ability activates himself, and Mocha notices. The hostility around him takes a complete 180 and turns into fangirls at a concert. The ladies melt before his gaze, and he decides to run, but not before Kiara decides to look him straight in the eye. 3rd time's the charm. And now we've reached another point wherein Kaito's being chased by a ferocious pack of females. Moeka can't help but be impressed by how instantaneous his skill is. While it probably can't be kept up for a few minutes at a time, she can see how this could spiral out of control rather quickly. Her guidance will surely have a significant influence on his future. She leaps down from the building. As his mentor, she's got to give it her all, too. With one spell, the delirious crowd is put to sleep. One question from mentor to pupil. Does he think his ability's active at the moment? Kaito admits he doesn't think so. After all, the area around his eyes gets a little warm when it is. And Mocha declares that as good progress for the day. The first step to controlling one's powers is knowing when it's active and when it isn't. And there's no other way to practice that than to keep using it. Our boy's gotta use it. not with fear, but with the genuine confidence and intent to control it. Take command, Kaito. And with that, Moeka swears that he'll be able to control Charm within a month. With the remaining 11 months, they'll use his ability to do something that'll make him indispensable to the 7 sages. While it would normally take longer to gain full control over one's powers, they don't have the luxury of time. But that's what it means to try to be one of the 7 sages, transcending your own limits. Kaito initially blanks out with a confused look, but a smile forms from one end of his face to the other. He really thought that Moeka was a lost cause and was just toying with him, but he's now reassured that she might actually be able to help. His honesty takes her aback. Anyway, before he can master his skill, she needs to teach him how to talk to girls first. Kaito waited forever to finally gain some powers, but there are definitely growing pains to receiving such a gift. In his case, Charm is turning out to be more OP than he expected. Not that he wants it. How big of a harem can this guy build? Will he learn anything in that 1-year time span? And will he ever get in a relationship with anyone? Because he'll always be questioning, is it love or is it magic?
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.